Hey guys, it's Kayla, and welcome to the second video that is titled The Four Pillars of Self-Care. So, to get started, I'm going to briefly kind of touch up on what we talked about in the first lesson. And when I say brief, very brief, because this is a new lesson. Okay, so we talked about what is self-care, and what makes it different from self-indulgence. So, with the last video, I hope that your mind just kind of ticked a little bit and you could start thinking about some of the things that you find like pleasure in or relaxing in and ask yourself, is that leaning more towards self-care or self-indulgence? Okay, so with that, this video is going to talk about the four pillars of self-care. So we're diving a little bit deeper as far as what self-care entails. So to get started, we're going to talk about the first dimension of self-care, which is the physical side. So, how I mentioned in the first video, physical, that includes, how you feel in your own skin, how you feel about your body, physically taking care of yourself, as well as being mindful on what your physical self-care needs in that moment, whether it's water, whether it's a walk around the block, whether it's sunshine, physical self-care. That's one dimension. Another dimension is going to be emotional self-care. So emotionally, just making sure that you're in a place where you can, give and receive without, feeling stressed out or tense or anything like that. Being mindful on what you need emotionally. The third one is social. So, social self care. This includes your circle, the community that you're with, who's in your corner. I know a lot of people, they feel like sometimes they have the people in their circle or in their life, but they're not sure what's going on, what's happening. They have drama, essentially. There's drama, there's confusion, there's all these things. And so, looking in your social life and seeing what that entails. Like, is your circle filled with people that you can 100% confidently say are there for you, or are there some conversations that need to be had, or is there a thing where you might have to take a step back and reevaluate that friendship? Social self-care is just all things people, socially people. And then the last dimension is going to be spiritual self-care. So this one, it's just dependent on the person. Some people aren't spiritual, so if you're not spiritual, you don't have to worry about that. If you are spiritual, this entails so many things. It doesn't specifically have to be a religion. You can just be a spiritual person. For me personally, it is my relationship with Jesus Christ. And so for that, that could mean so much to any individual. So I don't want to give an exact definition of that, but I hope you have a sense of what that entails. Okay, so those are just four dimensions that we're going to get started with as far as self-care and different ways of seeing self-care play in your life. So let's talk about the physical side of self-care. So I am going to give my own personal example of each dimension. And I just kind of want you to think about, in your life, is there something that you do that might fit in this category? So let's start with physical. So, physical self care, you are going to see me dancing. You may see me exercising, but most of the time it's dancing. So, I go to my local gym Mondays and Wednesdays and occasional Saturdays, and I take a dance class. Sometimes I work on like total strength but dancing, that is my physical self care, as well as when the weather is warm or warmer. It's too cold right now. But when the weather gets warmer, I also need sunshine. I'm kind of like a plant, hence my little plant back here. I have plants all around the house, and so it only made sense for me to bring at least one plant into this video. But being around plants, getting sunshine, being outdoors, and essentially being active with my body, whether I'm stretching or dancing or doing some type of lifting, ab workout, booty glutes workout, that is what self care looks like for me. Okay. let's look into the next one, emotional self-care. Okay, so for me, emotionally, you are going to see me journaling. I do not have a therapist. I need to get a therapist, but I do not have one right now. And I've been very mindful of my, my mental self care. There you go. And so for me, emotionally, when it comes to my feelings, I journal a lot. That helps me kind of clear things up. Um, Having a personal relationship with Jesus, I tend to pray or talk to him just like how I'm talking to you guys. That's exactly how I talk to Jesus. So whether I'm doing that or journaling, um, or even sometimes I will just sit in the silence, believe it or not, and just like literally, I'll just be quiet for several seconds and I will ask myself, Kayla, how are you feeling physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally? Like I will sit in the silence and wait until I can get an answer. I won't like pressure myself. I won't try to speed it up. There's so many things going on day to day, but I will force myself to take some time away from everything and everyone. And I will ask myself, how am I truly doing in these areas? And is there something that I need to change? Okay, so that's an example of what self care can look like emotionally. All of these things that I'm mentioning are for me. They do not have to work for you. If they do, great. If they don't, we just need to find something that works for you. So, again, these are just my personal examples, and I'm hoping that they can help you a little bit as far as understanding what self care looks like in this category. That way, whenever you start to explore what self care looks like for you in these categories or dimensions, you have a better idea. Okay. The third is going to be social self care. I'm only smiling a little bit because if you know anything about me outside of this website, I'm a huge introvert and I enjoy talking to people, but with limits or in certain ways. So, like, if you're not a best friend, there's a time limit that I can typically spend with you before I need to go. Or, I'm trying to think if, for example, my lovely spouse, my partner, my best friend, there's some times where I just need alone time. I can't do 24/7 with you. I need some alone time. So this has been one that's been kind of challenging for me, but I found some things that work for me. So what I can handle in this season of my life is for me, again, this is my example. Socially, I typically go to church on Sundays, unless the weather is bad, like recently with all this ice and snow, which I do not like. Um, Socially, when I go to the gym on Mondays and Wednesdays and do dance with my girlfriends, I force myself to have conversations, to talk to people, to make friends, to be intentional with getting to know people. Um, and then outside of that, I have my 3 German Shepherds, my gecko lizard, and my partner. So I feel like that is more than enough for me let me just stop and say, with the occasional visits with my friends. I love all of my friends. And if you're watching, thank you. Um, I love all of my friends. And so seeing them from time to time, it really does help me with my mental health as well as just being able to make sure that, they are okay. Because that makes me feel good knowing that they are okay. So between all of those activities, I feel like my social self care is just fine. But I also am looking forward to talking with you guys, especially if you join the network, which is basically a bunch of millennials and Gen Zs and a few other individuals who will have the time to get together and just talk about all things self care. So you'll probably see me in that group, whether I'm answering questions or joining in conversations. So I plan on being more intentional with my social self care. Okay. And then the last one before we slowly get towards wrapping things up is spiritual self care. And so I just mentioned I am I don't want to say I am a Christian because that is a thing, but I will say I do have a relationship with Jesus Christ. And I try to be the type of person who is loving towards others, which I know you don't know me and you're still getting to know me, but which is why, having a last name Loving, like that is honestly, some days it feels like really big shoes to fill, but I do my best. And it helps to know that my relationship with Jesus Christ, it makes things better, so that I am able to be more loving towards others. So I I just want you to know, if you're watching this and you do not have a relationship with Jesus Christ, I'm not going to be the type of person to force it. You can ask any of my friends. I'm not that type of person. I am just here to be loving and to hopefully be a safe place for you. As a social worker, a therapist, a friend, like I said, you can ask anyone in my circle. They will tell you I'm not that type of person. So feel free to continue watching these modules. If there is anything that I say that makes you feel uncomfortable, just let me know, and I can take it. So, but anyways, spiritual self-care for me is just reading my Bible, going to church and praying, listening to worship music, that kind of thing. So those are the 4 dimensions of self-care. So hopefully you have a better idea of what that looks like. And I want you to spend a few minutes sometime today thinking about what self-care in those areas would look like for you. Okay. If you're watching this video, feel free to comment afterwards as far as what you think um, you do for self-care, like what category or dimension it would fit under. I would love to read it. I would love to know, and we can have more conversations about it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching until the very end, and I will go ahead and end this video so we can get ready for the next video. Bye, guys.